Hey everyone, welcome to Collective Chatter. This is episode 65. I'm your host, Migs, here with my co-host Charlie. As always, today's episode, we're going to talk about the latest news. Not a ton of stuff, but definitely some amazing pops that we have been talking about for so long. We're finally officially announced, but can't wait to get into it.
And then after all that Funko news, we're talking about what a lot of people have been asking for, our opinions on the season 3 of The Mandalorian. All right, with that being said, let's chat.
All right, guys, here it is. Welcome back, episode 65. We have a shorter episode probably going to be because there wasn't a ton of Funko news, but we definitely want to always talk about what came out. There was something called Music Wednesdays. They basically call it, well, Music Wednesday they called. And on Wednesday, they announced a ton of pop rocks, which is obviously their music line, including some in this line, which were stuff that we have been hinting towards and
Yes,
rumors for the longest time and all that stuff.
finally.
So finally, we're going to get those. So we'll run through those, kind of give you our thoughts of those kind of the pops that were announced, a couple other things that were announced. And then, like Charlie also said in that intro, we're going to give you a little bit of our thoughts on The Mandalorian, the season in general. It's over now. I think it's been long enough that, spoilers and stuff, we'll let
Yeah.
you know ahead of time, but that'll be towards the end of the episode and kind of just give our thoughts. But we'll jump right into the news. And like I said, it's mostly been the music stuff that was announced. So we'll get right into that. And I mean, I got to start it off with
Yep.
the one and the only, the one we have been waiting for and dying for. We are finally going to get more Michael Jackson Funko
Yes.
Pops, which if you don't know, obviously there are some that exist. I believe there's five, maybe six, but I think it's five
I think it's 5 too.
really OG Funko Pops that at one point the estate had an issue with Funko and made them pull them off their, Funko app and site and everything. And these are like super hard to get. They're mega grails, hundreds and hundreds of thousands, hundreds and hundreds of dollars per pop. And basically, what I loved about it, though, I don't know if you have the same feelings as me, is that it's cool is that they're all Michael Jackson pops, but they literally were like a different song, basically
Yes.
based off of his outfit, and it was like perfect. It was like a Smooth Criminal one, a Billie Jean one, a Beat It one. So it's like so sick that they did that. But me and Charlie are big fans, and for the longest time we've been hearing rumors that we might be getting more. We're gonna eventually get one, and all these things kept coming out and it never dropped. And we thought it would be for a con or whatever. But finally we got two that were announced. We got one Funko Pop, which is like amazing, and it's him like doing the lean forward from like Smooth Criminal, which is such a
So
cool
cool.
idea. It's so great to have that. I'm assuming he's obviously kind of a stand, so he'll stand like really nice. And then the second one is this one we rumored for a while is a pop album, which is the Bad album, which is interesting that they went with this one when they don't have like Thriller already, because obviously,
I agree.
most people would think Thriller is the bigger album, which is interesting though, because I've recently been getting into vinyl. I know you're also
Yep.
into vinyl and collecting, and I do have both of those albums, Bad and the Thriller album. And after listening to Bad, like there's some hits on
That
Bad,
is
so it
great.
definitely it's definitely a great album. But it's interesting that that was the first one they went with. But what are your thoughts? I definitely rambled on. Michael Jackson's my
No,
favorite
yeah.
artist of all time, so regardless of genre, so this was like a big deal.
The
Like,
first thing I'll say is I definitely think this is just the beginning. We finally, they're now out there, but like, there's no doubt in my mind we're going to get the Thriller album and it will just go
yeah.
on and on and on. I think these two are both pretty strong, and I
Hmm.
love the Smooth Criminal pop. It's so sick. I mean, that's like obviously Michael Jackson's one of a kind, but like I even feel like that we don't really even have a pop that looks like this for like anything. Like it's like a
Yeah.
noose, just like the whole way they made it look with the stance. I love it, and I just can't wait to get more of these. Like I feel like they were going to get a big Michael Jackson collection finally, and these. I mean, you took the words basically right out of my mouth. There's not much more I can say. As besides, I'm super pumped about these, and I think they're awesome. And about time.
Yeah. I kind of hope they don't go crazy with it, but at the same time, I would love, because I would definitely want to get all of
Yeah,
whatever they come out with. I could see them definitely doing a Thriller album, pop album like they did, and maybe only those being the two
I think we
albums and kind
stop
of
at
being,
that.
yeah, kind of being okay. You don't need to go too crazy, and maybe some of the other ones. Just because, like, not that all his other music wasn't iconic, but obviously those are really big iconic albums, and that would be pretty cool. And then even pop wise, like I don't really see them redoing some of the old ones, which we obviously already kind of have. So it's cool that this is like another version of like a Smooth Criminal. So maybe we get another like thrillers type one where he's wearing where he has like the wolf
I think
mask
that could
on,
be a
like from the video.
chase.
Like that would be sick. Yeah, or even if the regular one was him,
Yeah.
regular face, and then that, because the one that they have, I don't know if they have a thriller one. I think they have a Beat It one
Yeah, they have a
of
Beat
the
It one.
OGs.
I don't think they have a Thriller one, even though I do think they're gonna remake every single one that's already been
You
made.
think so?
I mean, but
Or
the
like
look,
in a different pose or
yeah,
different, like,
and the
but the
look, I
similar
mean,
kind of thing.
those, as you said, they're super OG. I mean,
Yeah, the
they
mold you
look
can tell is
old,
like a old Funko Pop, like when you
and
see
they're
the
also
difference.
probably one of the most faked ones out there. So,
Yep, it's true.
um, I think we'll probably get them, but you won't feel, you're still gonna know if you have the OG one. It's not gonna like hurt the value if you're a value collector, in my
Well, I
opinion.
was gonna say, will it raise the value? Because then it's gonna be
Probably.
like these are the ones that you want to get. Now people have the newer ones, So that's an interesting take too.
But I'm excited. Another thing that was announced, which I love the artist, but I'm just not going to get this pop for one reason only, even though I know it's he, is a Braves fan. But the Usher, Funko Pop, I
Is
just
that
can't
the
get
only
it.
reason why?
I just can't get that with the Atlanta Braves hat
Oh,
on
come
there.
on.
Just can't do that.
It's sick though. The mold is so
All
nice too.
joking aside, I will probably get this.
Yeah, it's cool.
But it is I'm actually surprised in that is even part of this Funko Pop. Um,
Yeah, true. It's
it's just like
very
an
like
interesting,
trademarked
yeah, it's
type of
just
thing.
interesting to me. When I saw that, I was like, whoa. But it's super cool. I love how he's holding like his, chain necklace.
Yeah,
It's
with
just
the U.
they can really go like original, I feel like, with these molds whenever they have any of these the music ones. And
Mhm.
we've talked about before, we like this line and it's super underrated. So I
Yeah,
think this was a pretty sick drop.
yeah, and I mean, what's cool about it, like you were saying, is specifically with like artists and these big flashy artists or bands or whoever it may be. A lot of times they have like looks and outfits and accessories and things that like kind of make them unique. Now, granted, obviously, there's a couple artists out there that are a little bit more, just basic and
Yeah.
just they're not for that part of it. But the fact that they do these, like they've been done a ton of Snoop Dogg ones, right? And obviously, Snoop Dogg's like a big one for them now, where they're just, but everyone has been super detailed.
Different.
You can tell it's him. It's like something he would wear or he had wore or so whatever. So it is cool. The Usher one I thought was amazing. I mean, it's kind of funny you said that. I actually do own an Atlanta Braves hat, but I only own it not
I,
because of
I,
the Braves, obviously because I'm an Atlanta Falcons fan, and
yeah.
mostly because of that. But it yeah, it's like so cool. But it is interesting that you said that whole thing about the Braves hat and like that being, something that's on a smaller pop, and it's like another little, like it's not gonna have an MLB thing on it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I did notice they've kind of been upping the details on some of these little things too, because this is a completely different type of pop. But there was a new Michael Jordan pop announced, and
Yes.
he's wearing actual Jordans now.
Oh, I didn't notice
Like
that.
so, like yeah, so like it looks like they're really kind of messing with some of the details. So I mean, like, not gonna lie, if they came out with an Usher pop, I know they did do the album one, which that one it was cool, but this one's like
This one's way
Usher.
better.
Like you could
Yeah.
tell it's him, it's perfect. But you can't have a hat and have it be plain or something. That just would have been weird. So I'm kind of
Yes.
glad that they were able to do it. And even if it's like not the official A, I mean, it looks enough like it
No,
is.
I
So
mean
I would say,
it looks super
it
official.
is. So, but yeah, that Usher one was definitely a cool one. Those were definitely like the two that I was like, whoa, these are sick. I'm even posted about them and everything because I was very excited about those. Um, but to keep with the music, there was a bunch of different ones that came out. We had Janis Joplin pop, which is cool. It was a black light.
Yep.
One, was there a regular one too?
A
I don't know
regular
if
and
I
a
saw
black light.
there's
Yeah.
okay. So it was a regular and it was a black light, which totally totally okay with that. I mean, she's in that
It
time
goes.
range. That it's like the Jimi Hendrix one that they came out with black light. It made sense. So like you can kind of see why they would do that. So it's not like too much of a pushy thing. Don't think you need to get. I mean, obviously, if you're a huge Janice fan, you get both of them. But like, it is probably one that you're like, okay, man, I'll just like the plain looking one, or I like the black light, that type of thing, and then choose one. But cool that we're getting, some of these like older.
Yeah.
artists as well too. It's a good mix of what was announced.
Yeah, I definitely thought it was a cool pop. And like you said, I don't need to repeat it. Like the blacklight just it works with her, and
Mhm.
it's there's definitely fans out there for it. Another one that was announced though, which I was totally surprised by, and I think it's pretty awesome, is the awesome Mix Volume 1 from Guardians of the Galaxy as a pop album
Yeah,
with Star
I was
Lord.
so crazy that it made it as an album, but
Like,
cool.
I think it's super cool. I definitely it's funny, the ones that were announced this for this Music Wednesdays were that I wanted were MJ, Usher, and this one. Everyone else, obviously, we're going to talk about them, but I'd probably
Yeah,
pass on. This one, I just think is super cool. It's a new mold that we don't have of Peter Quill. And obviously, this is so iconic with the movies, like the music.
they don't make that one yet
No,
as a pop. Oh, that's
no,
cool.
it's
Well,
it's
they
a
have
diff
one with his like a tape deck basically, right? But not the one where he's holding on to that like
correct.
thing or whatever.
And it's just this is just as iconic as the characters. The music for this movie is might as well be a character.
Yeah, it's true.
And I mean, I thought as much as they like to milk Marvel, like I think this is like worthy and it's a super cool one.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's very unique. It's different. It's definitely thinking outside the box, where you wouldn't maybe have thought this route.
No,
And like, I don't think they need to overdo this with too many other things, but this was perfect. Um, because you see it and you're like, oh, that's cool. It's like a moment. It's pop. But then you see that's an album, and they're like, all right, that's even cooler now. It's like, it obviously was the whole, mixtape that he made. So that was definitely cool. We had George Clinton pop, which was pretty cool looking. I mean, it looks just like him. This one I feel like was kind of a miss though, where they should have made this one a black light. I
I
mean, I feel
agree.
like his that would have. I mean, Parliament Funkadelic, like come on, like that would have fit perfectly. Um, but it is a cool pop. Like if you like that style of music and that kind of thing, this is one that probably you will get. I don't see like a ton of people going after it because it is probably a little bit more niche of a fan base,
Agreed.
especially in the Funko. But I'm glad that they're making that. We always say that we like when they make these little things, even if they're ones that like not everybody's gonna want. There's somebody out there that will, and
I
that's
almost
kind
feel
of what
like
makes Funko Funko. So
agreed. I almost feel like that's probably why they didn't make a blacklight one. Even though worthy probably
yeah,
just wouldn't sell. So let's make a normal one, which I think was, and I totally agree with you. It's good that they're making it. Another one that came out, which is cool. I'm not going to get it, but the Soundgarden like deluxe pop album,
yeah, the big one. I can't believe they're still making those.
me either. But I'm assuming Soundgarden pops already exist. Do you know
I
that?
I want to say that they do, but I don't know if I don't know for sure.
Okay.
Like
Um,
individually, maybe, or as like a 4 pack
you
or
would
something. I
feel
would
like
think.
they would if they're making this, but super
I want to say
cool.
maybe like a 4 pack or something
Okay.
exists. I feel like it does, but
If
I don't
anyone
know.
knows, let us know in the comments.
Yeah,
But yeah, I you kind of took the words right out of my mouth. Like I'm shocked they're still making these, but this is
yeah,
probably already in production, and like obviously, like we've known the rumors for the MJ ones for a really long time. So
yeah.
just thinking about that, this has probably just been in the works. I feel like once they make what's in production, these will phase out.
Yeah, they're enormous. It's just
They're
too much.
huge.
And like still to this day, and I said it when the line came out, I said it when we've mentioned like new ones coming out. I still think to this day that the original Funko Pop album line is one of the best lines that Funko has come up with. And it's the such unique like molds to the different Funko Pops that they're doing. They've chosen for the most part awesome albums. Some were
Yeah.
like, maybe I'm not a fan of whatever, but I understand it. And like it just makes sense. So like them still doing like the Michael Jackson one in that style, totally awesome. This thing, I don't know, it's just too huge. And even there was a U2 one too as well. So there was
Yep.
two that were announced. So U2 was the album Pop. And it's like we have a bunch of U2 stuff already as well. And it's just like I don't know. It's massive. But like I said, I get it because there's obviously probably somebody who's looking for this thing and buying it. It's probably just a hardcore fan of that person and putting it in like a nice room or a music studio or something. And it's an awesome, like, wall piece or whatever. but as like a collector, and when you're getting so much stuff like we do, I don't think it really is for us necessarily. Like, like I don't know if there's like a band that I would say like I need to have that. And like even some of the albums that already exist, like there's a Linkin Park one. I'm a diehard Linkin Park fan, and like that. But like if they came out with that version, I probably wouldn't get it though, because it's just like
I
because
agree.
of the Blink, like even the Blink one, they had a Blink one, right?
Yeah,
And
I
you're a
didn't
huge
get it.
Blink fan, and it's not like
No,
it's almost like
it's
too much.
it's hard to explain, but like for me, having the actual album art and then like a fake vinyl on the other side, it's just like too much. I almost wish they just put the band on top of the pop. It doesn't need to be in it like the pop albums are. Like legitimately put them above the art and just make it the pop a little higher. Kind of, it wouldn't be as big as the movie poster ones, but
Hmm.
like just do that and like totally get rid of it on the side. Then it could be a little more desirable. Or like how there's two and two, put two on top, two on the bottom. They're just way too wide.
Yeah,
And and like I said,
it's
I'd
huge.
probably the only band
Probably
I'd buy
heavy
these
too with
for
the
is the
acrylic.
Beatles. If they made a Beatles one, I'd get that, I think, and
I
that's
feel like they're
it.
going to though, because they
You
definitely
would,
made.
but they don't really, they haven't made Beatles
Actually,
pops
they haven't
like
in a while.
no. They've made a John Lennon pop. I
I
don't
mean,
even
there's a lot of albums though. Like, which one would they do? And then it's like,
yeah,
do they do more than one? And so
honestly,
maybe
they
that's why.
deserve probably, or they may not have the rights to that anymore.
Yeah, just because they haven't
I
in
mean,
a
there's not a
while.
Like I don't think there's a standalone Paul McCartney Funko Pop, for example.
No,
Just only John Lennon stuff.
John. I was gonna say there's John Lennon. No, yeah, that's true.
And like there's the Yellow Submarine, like
Interesting.
old
So maybe they don't
school
have the
ones.
license for that
Yeah, I
for
bet you
that
they don't,
now, for like McCartney and stuff.
because they would milk that, I feel like.
But yeah, I mean that's another huge one. So like yeah, like you said, Soundgarden and then the U2,
Yeah.
but not fans of it.
Another thing we got was a Hot Topic exclusive, like all metallic looking Slipknot.
Yeah,
Um,
Corey Taylor.
it's I don't like this
I mean
pop at all.
they do
I know they
that
do
type
this,
of
right?
well, but what's weird, but yes and no because they have, but they've always been those like limited ones.
Yes,
Like it'll be a Hot Topic
uncommon.
exclusive with like a limit number, and they come out with a few different versions, and it's all like metallic basically or chrome or whatever. Um, and this pop already exists. Like I'm pretty sure the exact same one, just in normal color.
Yep.
So it's almost like this is the diecast chase
I don't
version
get,
of
yeah.
Corey Taylor.
I don't like anyone, if you listen to us, let us, do you like pops like this? Like, I
It's
don't,
weird, and as a single, like that's just I don't know.
there's
I
nothing
don't
like,
know.
why would you want this over a fully detailed color version? Like, I don't get it. Like, but you would think people are buying these if they keep making them. Like, they wouldn't just keep making them.
Definitely let us know. I mean, if you're a fan of them, like tell us, like, hey, this is why I like
Yeah,
them, or whatever reason. I mean, I don't know. Like, there's certain like metallics and chromes, even whatever. Like certain characters, I was okay with. I like the way they look. They were a little bit more like an exclusive, like when Target would do it, for like the
correct.
Mando and those
I
things.
did get
Like,
those.
yeah, I have those too, and like one of my favorite colors is red. So like, I definitely love that version of seeing those things in red, but some of it was overkill. Some characters made no sense, and some are just like this, where it's just like, why? Like,
Yeah,
I didn't really get it. Um, we also had this person I don't actually know, Bon Scott.
yeah.
Do you know who that is?
I don't, which is maybe bad.
Yeah, I feel like if I was maybe if he's from a group or band, and then I figured out who it was, I would know. But I don't know.
You know
Another
what?
one, let
No,
us know.
no.
But
I think he's from ACDC.
is he?
I think so.
Because I'm assuming he's from a. I mean, I could just look it up, I guess. Right? Let me see. But it
He's
just
definitely no, he's the lead of ACDC, I'm pretty sure. I wasn't even
that
thinking that
it
because
doesn't look like him though, is it?
I don't know why he'd get a
Yeah, it definitely is. That's him.
it is, right? I don't understand why he'd get a pop like that.
Wow, we just killed. I
I know
guess I'm
that's
thinking,
embarrassing.
but is it because I'm just thinking of someone else from ACDC that is like more like who is he is? How am I mixing up ACDC with somebody else? Who's Angus Young is not. What's he from? Wow. Yeah, totally think I was mixing up somebody else, and that's why I had no idea that's who it was. But yeah. Yeah, because is Angus Young the one that you like see more?
Well,
Or
so
Brian Johnson because of the
he
hat?
was, yeah, but he was the lead vocalist until he died in 1980.
Okay, so maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
Like Brian Johnson, who you see more with the little those that little hat, like
which maybe it
Irish
is why
style,
he
like the
is
bat
getting his own
as
Funko
like a
Pop like
solo.
this. Yeah,
Okay. So
that's
I mean,
probably why.
I mean, they obviously have the rights to AC/DC, and they've dropped a ton of stuff, whether it's pop albums and things like that. So I get it. It's funny he's got chest hair like
It's a funny, cool.
on
It's
the
a cool
pop,
pop.
which yeah, we've seen a few pops where that is on him. So like a cool, funny detail. By the way, like diehard U2 fans don't like murder us for totally like disrespecting the band there by not knowing exactly what that was,
No,
but just
ACDC.
not
You just
like
said you
I mean
too.
ACDC, holy crap.
You really disrespected them.
I was thinking YouTube before because the goddamn album thing. Whatever, two-letter freaking. All right, whatever.
Yeah,
Let's keep moving it on because we're just continue to bury holes here with the hardcore rock old school fans.
but well,
Not
even though
not that we
this,
probably have many, but if you're out there,
no,
let us know.
I know my cousin Anthony is definitely going to say something to me about this, but it's all good. Another one though we kind of alluded to. This wasn't announced during this, but we got a new Snoop Dogg pop for 420, a Hot Top
Which one?
exclusive. It was
Did I
the
miss that one?
one. Yeah, no, I we
Oh
were
yeah,
we
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, the hot topic
yeah,
with the microphone.
yeah.
Yeah, that was cool.
This one's cool, and like kind of you were saying earlier, all of his pops, like they all do look different.
Yeah,
They're like
different
all like if
looks,
you're
but
a
you could tell
huge
it's
fan,
him.
it's like they're worthy of. He's the first musician that they've made, in my opinion, that like they're all worthy of getting if you're
Hmm.
a fan. So I thought
Yeah,
that
it's
one was
definitely
pretty
cool.
cool.
Definitely a cool one. Yeah, along with like the gold that I kind of mentioned earlier, they came out with like a new gold previously too, not too long ago. And then I think the last one in the music like announcements was another Ghost Pop. This is again another it's like heavy metal band that I don't really know much about. The pops always look pretty cool.
Cool.
This is a Papa Emeritus the fourth. I mean I mean it looks like Sting.
It
It's kind
does.
of
Oh,
funny,
dude.
but it's cool that one eye is white and one is black. Like that's pretty sick. So like the look is always crazy. All these pops every time they come out with them, whether it's like the priest looking one and all those like it's funny that Funko has like this license and that they do release this because it's
I
like
agree.
so out there compared to a lot of other stuff. But they look like
They look
awesome
cool.
and supposedly these shows are like crazy and like the performances that they put on. So it's like another cool looking. I mean, they have a look, so obviously it's not just like a
Yes.
standard person. So it's cool that we're seeing these in like pop form. They definitely translate over to it really well. But yeah, that was the last one of like this music Wednesday announcement. That was pretty cool that they did that. It was kind of out of nowhere. I didn't know they were going to do something like that.
Agreed.
I just remember us seeing the Michael Jackson one and going crazy, and then we're like, "Holy crap!" And then we just saw a few more announced all in a batch, which I like when they do that. They haven't done that in a while. We talked about Funko's been a little slow. It seems like. I know we did, even though we weren't going to go in depth about this. I did want to mention it's kind of crazy that still to this day we still haven't gotten an NFT announcement,
No,
which
it's
is
super
really
weird.
odd. And you were saying if it's another week and they don't get it on Friday, it's gonna be even crazier. And like I don't know, you're more in depth in the discords and all the groups and stuff. I don't know if you've heard any rumors about that or anything.
People are
Because
just like, where is it? What's going on? Like, and everyone at this point has seen the list we have, and they're like, it's going to be it. But yeah,
they're
people were
waiting until
shocked.
Halloween.
Yeah, people were shocked it wasn't announced on Friday. Part of me is like, it's weird, but do you think Funko and Drop are kind of like, hey, maybe we need to slow down a little bit till we get the production to where we want it to be, and then we'll go crazy again?
It could be maybe, and I mean, I would hope so. I mean, because like even thinking about it that way, like I'm still like we're both obviously waiting for so many things that we've redeemed at this point now is like the wait time is the turnaround is crazy. And
Yeah,
it's like we're now getting more and more redeemed. So they're taking those redemptions and like quick, but like
Like I
When are
still
we
don't
gonna
have my
start
Jay and
getting
Silent
these in?
Bob ones, which seem like a
Jeez, and
lifetime
those are
ago.
way before too. It's
Um,
interesting.
trying
I
to think what.
usually like will gauge it on like a lot of pages and stuff. You know, we both follow like on the West Coast essentially. They'll get their stuff usually faster. So
Yeah,
like when you see them kind of being like, oh, these are coming in, you know, the disc trackers and the Funko Finders of the world like posting, then you know in a day or two or
you're gonna
three
get it.
we'll get ours finally. But there hasn't been really anything in that
It's
talk.
funny you say that though. Not to change the topic, one thing I wanted to bring up. Have you noticed ever since the new Funko system, even though we were kind of bashing the app last week, I get my deliveries, I get my shipments quick.
Yeah.
It's insane.
They have been, well, at least for the what we've been getting. Actually, hold on. I have, okay. So I just wanted to make sure they're still coming. So they're still coming from Buckeye. Because I know for a little while they were, and it was bad. It was like taking forever. And I didn't know
So
if there was an
bad.
issue with that. But like I have a box that came in from Funko not too long ago. And it's still coming from the Buckeye address. So maybe they got that figured out. Maybe they cleared out all that crappy clearance and now they got room to move around and actually get people's things
Yeah,
fulfilled.
it's insane.
Um, because it does seem like it's been a bit quicker, and there's things have changed. The email system is looking different now when you get
Yep,
your confirmations and stuff. So it's definitely a good thing because we've complained about that in the past,
agreed. It's
obviously.
been a
So
great
if
thing.
if that's going to continue, then I would say that's a good thing that we're getting. Um, but there's a couple other, couple rumors, a couple other pops that we'll talk about before we get into like the Mando news later. Or the Mando
Mm.
talk. There was a Blacklight Loki. We we might have mentioned it because it was rumored or like saying this was going to come out. But what I thought was interesting, I remember we were talking with Trey, that it said it was like Funko Europe like
Exclusive, yeah.
exclusive, and it was like whatever, and I was like, that's kind of weird and odd. But I guess now it's just basically like a Funko Shop exclusive, or maybe they did get it. But I did kind of say that. I remember I was like, Europe sometimes gets stuff first,
Yep,
which is weird. But this pop looks sick. I mean, the color is like perfect. It's like the Ragnarok version, which is an
the
awesome version of Loki
best
in my
version.
opinion.
Yeah,
And the colors and his outfit are amazing in that entire movie. So it's like perfect for this. But yeah, super cool. I don't know what your thoughts are. I mean,
I
like
love that one.
Blacklight, I feel like has kind of been like hit or miss, and I haven't gone as crazy, even though I have a ton of Blacklight still. But I feel like this is one I definitely, and I really like Loki.
I definitely agree with you. I love Loki and like the whole color aesthetic of Ragnarok kind of fits Blacklight. This is one of the best versions of him. And I'm curious to see if this will be like a Funko Shop exclusive sellout.
Yeah, I was
I
just
know a
gonna say
lot of
that.
people have been like you said, a little over the Blacklight, but this may be an exception.
Yeah, I was gonna say this could be the one that does. Um, Granted, let's see how many they make. Could be one that does, and
Yeah.
then it restocks a little bit later, whatever. But I could see this being pretty popular. Loki, for the most part, is a pretty popular pop usually.
Yeah.
Um, for when they do come out with them, they're pretty good hits. Like they're usually not. It's usually not like a lazy Loki pop. It's usually something that's pretty sick, or from a good part of a movie or a good looking one. So hopefully, this is one that we do get as a sellout. That would make it even more like enticing, exciting to get to,
I completely
in my
agree.
opinion.
But speaking of Funko Pops that used to go crazy on the Funko Shop exclusives were the ad icons. And we got a new one of those, but it seems like no one cares about these anymore. And it was a Pringles one, Julius Pringles.
Makes sense.
Honestly,
I thought they would have already had this, but
I agree. Like I don't collect ad icons. I have like a handful, but I think this one is kind of cool. I also think it's funny that their slogan is once you pop, the fun don't stop. So you got pop in there.
yeah,
But I think people are just
it is
these aren't
weird
a
that
thing anymore.
exactly. I was gonna say, I mean, I'm glad they kind of did away with like really going hard on the foodie stuff and the bags, and like they
Yeah,
still get them here and there, but like we were getting waves of them for a while.
way too many.
Um, but even more legit ad icons. Like they've kind of done away with them for a little while.
Yeah.
And like granted, we probably got majority of them because there was a time where we were getting ripped with ad icons all the time. And it's a really OG line to Funko. We've kind of said obviously we know that they
Yeah.
in Funko love the ad icons. It's usually their favorite. Wacky wobblers and bobbleheads, they have those, and then they obviously do sodas and stuff. I have like a couple of the pops, but they're mostly like the cereal ad icons.
Yeah.
I have a few of those, like Boo Bear and stuff like that. Captain Crunch and stuff, and then I obviously have some of those OG sodas like that. But for the most part, I don't go like crazy and I'm like a diehard at it, even though they're like pretty cool. Some of
No,
the
they are cool.
mascot versions of them, like the really ones, those are really cool. So this one's a cool one. It definitely I think the reason why I thought like, oh wow, doesn't this already exist is for two reasons. One, because it's Pringles, I would have figured they would have gotten it. But two, because it looks like the Reds mascot who does exist in Funko with that mustache and
I
stuff. And I think
completely
that's
agree
why
with you.
I was like kind of confusing it. Um, but it's funny but it's cool. It's a cool one that like, that's finally out. Um, I want to talk about this because this was kind of controversial in a way, and also like I don't know. It was like I don't know if it was true or a mistake or they're trying to play us or whatever it was, but it was the whole announcement and rollout and everything with the Gabriel Iglesias fluffy Funko Soda. So I don't remember if last week we announced this.
No,
Did
we
we
didn't know
talk
about this
about
yet.
it? Okay.
No.
So it was like announced and came out pretty fast. It dropped directly on Fluffy's site, like one of his, sites,
Yep.
which was cool. It was an exclusive to there, so we weren't going to get it on Funko. We were going to get it at these stores, which made it awesome. When the initial soda was like announced, it had Chase and everything, and I remember them saying, I could have swore I remember seeing something about 5,000 piece. That's what I remember seeing, like as like the initial thing.
Yes.
That's what I feel like, right? With that initial picture. Then there was something that came out and it said that it wasn't that. And the picture that they came out with had no piece count on it. And the site decided to say that it actually was a 15,000 piece soda, but they announced it as a 50,000 piece
1,000.
soda,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous. So I guess like the 5,000 and 50,000, what was like kind of mixed up because most people thought, oh, it's going to be super limited as a 5,000 piece, which I think at that point that's a perfect number for something like this
Agreed.
because yeah, it's pretty popular. Yeah, they love making fluffy stuff, but I don't think you need to make this like a mass product. I think it needs to be more of a like exclusive thing to get, right? Especially if you're getting it through a third party site or somebody else. Um, so come to find out, these things drop, and I don't know if they sold out. I don't know. I
I have
haven't
no
looked back at
idea.
the site. I actually looked at the site, like I went on in to see when they did drop. They were, available, obviously. You can get 6. So a couple things about it. So since you didn't look, I'll kind of tell you
Yeah.
about it. So it was through this site. It went directly to this. You can get other fluffy stuff on there as well, like some other pops, the Tapatio box. A couple things were sold out, but there was some stuff that was available that you could still buy through there. Um, and then the sodas, and you can get up to 6. And it said it in the notes and everything. If you ordered 6, it was a sealed case.
Okay.
So you were getting a factory sealed case from Funko, is literally what they said, basically word for word. So you're essentially basically guaranteeing a chase. Or if you're a vendor or whatever it is, you're getting a box with a chase. Fine, no problems with that. You can obviously order them individually. I'm sure there would just be the loose cans. But then in that little thing, like we just mentioned, they said like 15,000 piece. So what it was is that this was actually a 15,000 piece. Okay, still a high number for sodas, but
Yeah.
kind of like in that range where it's like obviously it's a character that they know probably is popular, but it's not like super rare. And then it said it was 50,000 was a mistake. It's supposed to be 15. But then we see people getting him. And this is where it gets awesome for Funko. So the cans still say 50,000 on them, which I thought was funny because on the website, the can literally had nothing, no
Nothing
number.
on it.
Like they took it away, clearly. The can has 50,000 and the Pogs still say 50,000. Well, the Pogs say 42,000,
Yeah.
I think, for
Because
a
of them.
common and
Yep.
8,000 chase at that point, right? Which is crazy. So now the whole thing is who's like, what's the truth? Is there really 50,000 and they're trying to play us and say it's only 15 and there was just a mistake? Or did they just mess up the can and there's really only 15,000 of them out there, but it's going to say 50? I don't know what you think. but I don't
I
know what to think.
I hate to say it, they tried to play us, but this opens up a can of worms that we've talked about before with sodas, if it's even
Sodas
real.
have so much drama behind them. I feel like with stuff like this.
I think this has exposed them of and not being the actual amount that they say that they
None of the
make.
counts, yeah.
Yeah, which part of me even now thinks like maybe that's why they were like, you know what, we're just not going to put numbers on these anymore. Like how
Like
we
on
said
the other
before, like on
lines.
the common ones that they've been making. And then I think there was a lot of controversy, and they're like, oh no, we got to go back to having both. And because I feel like it's a hard on a assembly line of like making all these products. I mean, we even see with the NFTs, like, do they actually make that number? Like, I feel like that's like impossible, especially sometimes
Yeah,
like
no.
it's just I don't see how it
It,
happens. I
I feel like
also
there's a few like weird things about this. Like there's layers because one, yeah, like 50,000 is insane to think about. Cause even at one point, I think what they did 20, maybe 25, I think, on some like the Thanos or whatever was like
yeah,
20,000, whatever, right? And even that I remember thinking, like, that's like a lot. Like, I get it that like there's millions of people and so whatever, but like when you really start breaking it down, like 20,000 is a good amount. Like even if you spread that across the United
yeah,
States,
a
even if you
lot.
put it in, every state, that's still a lot, right? So basically, I always thought that number was like weird, like how those work. We've had these conversations. We don't wanna go too crazy about that, but we've had them. But when it came to this, it's like, was it like, let's say it was a mistake, right? Was it like supposed to be, to me, it would make more sense if it was supposed to be 5,000 and they printed 50,000. They added a zero, right?
Correct.
That's
Yep,
easy, not a mistake that's super easy, but
possible.
a little bit
It's
more
believable.
believable. But for it to be 15,000 is what it was supposed to be, and to be printed 50, like the only way I can get that, and this is gonna sound so stupid and hilarious, is that like in the day of age where we have email and we have all these things, right? Which is how they probably talk to these people. Like, was this a conversation? Did somebody call up and say, "Hey, Brian, hey, whoever makes the decision at that point, right? Could be whoever. How many are we gonna make of this?" And they go, "Yeah, we're gonna do 50,000." He said it like with that they thought 1550. Maybe it sounded like it because that's the
Yeah,
only way a 15 and a 50 would, like, if somebody saying it and kind of like in an accent or something. Because to mistake it like that, I don't get it. If it was 5,000 and you added the zero and whoever like printed it or typed it out, put that zero and that's what they mass produced, maybe I would get that, but that would be a crazy number because then what you're gonna
it,
say is like, I have one of the 5,000, but like realistically, is there 50,000 out there? Because that's a big difference.
huge difference. And
Because even
like
from 15 to 50 is huge. So
huge.
like, I feel like you're
It's
gonna be
and
able to
like that's
tell.
just way too big of a number. And then the only way it's true is then it kind of will explain why they make so many Luffy Pops. Maybe he does sell
I
that
mean, he
well.
does. He definitely does.
But like I know he sells, but let's just pretend it was supposed to be 50,000. Like they had to have had somewhere if that was true, and then they were backstepping because a lot of collectors are probably like 50,000. Like if you're a Luffy fan, you're just gonna get it regardless. But some people only collect for like the collectability of it.
Mhm.
There's not, I mean, that would make that the most readily available soda ever made that's numbered.
So so the thing is, I just went to the site and it's still available.
Okay.
So, and I could still get all the way up to 6 if I wanted. I
That
could
means
let you
there's
go. Let you
50,000
got it.
of them.
And I was
Boom.
just gonna say, at this point, I would like to believe he's a popular enough for Funko and for collectors that I would think 15,000 would have sold by now, but maybe not. Because we do have some low piece count sodas that are still
Yeah.
sitting on Funko. Um, So I'd say let's give this a little bit, let's say. And if this thing is still sitting up there, then if you got one of these, bro, you got one of 50,000 because because that's a lot.
Yeah,
But we'll
I
see.
agree.
It's just an interesting like take. I would love to hear what everybody else thinks
I'm curious
on
if they'll end
this
up on the
topic
Funko.com, one of the Funko exclusives.
eventually.
Yeah, then you'll really know.
It's just hilarious. It literally says like misprint 50,000 on can, but it's also on the Pog. Like it's not just the can. They messed up on
Yeah,
both. And the Pog, it doesn't say 50,000. It says 42
yeah, that's what I
because
don't
they did the
like.
1 in 6.
If they didn't do the Pogs, then maybe it'd
It's
be
a
more
little more
believable.
believable. Yeah, I don't think so. I think they really have it out there, and then they were like, "Oh, let's make it more limited or something." But who knows? And again, like I said, if it was 50 to 5 and that zero just being added, I would believe it more
Believable.
because then even the 4,000 or the 14,400, whatever it is, like you're basically just adding a zero to that too. So you're kind of like you can get away with a little bit more, but I don't know. But definitely an interesting
Yeah, let
thing. I
us know
want to
what
see
you
what
all
everybody else thinks
think.
because it's a drama that in the Funko Soda world that is another. It's just another thing. I still think to this day that piece counts are fake. I really, really almost believe it, even with the limited ones and the ones like that, because it's so hard to. We're never going to get an answer because it's impossible to really know how many there are.
Yeah,
But it's interesting, especially when you still see sealed sodas of OG Wave One low piece counts that are still out there. It's like, I mean, granted, there might be some here and there, but it's interesting to see that there still is a decent amount.
yeah. I think the number on the can is relatively close to what they're trying to do, but there's no way, especially now, there's just too much evidence. It's not exact.
Yeah,
Let us know what you think, and let us know if you got this fluffy soda. And because honestly, I've kidded about him before, but the soda's pretty cool and the chase is pretty good too. Like
yeah.
it's a good
I think
soda.
they make both of those in pops, I
Pops,
believe,
I
maybe.
think they
But
do
it's cool
too.
that we're getting both of
Yeah.
them with the dogs and whatever. So the looks of
Another,
his.
yeah. Another new Funko Shop exclusive though. Continue with that lights and sounds. We got an Optimus Prime from Transformers.
Mhm.
This one to me is pretty cool because like it lends well to the lights and sounds, but I also think it's super random. Um, I
Yeah,
also wish like this line in general just is so all over the place now that we've added this into the mix. Like it was kind of just Star Wars and superheroes. Now we have Optimus Prime. Now it's like, okay, they've opened up the gates. We could legitimately get anything for this, which I guess is the Funko way. And it's
it
not bad,
is. I mean, the
but
character, I guess it because the character itself does make sounds and kind
yeah,
of like,
it
I
makes
feel like it's
sense.
not as much, so it makes sense. But if they like get another one and it's kind of a little bit out of nowhere and it's not necessarily like in the same field or line,
Yeah.
but it's interesting because this was a line that they did a good amount of them and then they kind of stopped and now we're getting like a few in a row. So maybe they're coming back and they
Yeah.
think this is like a new thing or a wave, but I don't know. I just think it's kind of like I don't really go after any of them, but it's a cool one to have if you're like
Yeah.
a Transformers fan. We had a rumor the Barbie movie is gonna make it to pop, so that's interesting. I know we got trailers for the movie
Yep.
now, so that's gonna be coming out soon. Pretty big actors in it. Obviously it looks pretty interesting. It looks like
Yeah.
I'm interested in it. It should be entertaining, I think. But it's kind of interesting that we're gonna get pops of the characters, and it's gonna obviously be the movie, accurate versions of these. Um, because do we have Barbie pops
I don't think so.
like the toys?
No.
So that's interesting. No, we don't have them in the toys because. But this might sound kind of stupid, but like, who makes
Mattel.
Barbie for the most Mattel? Okay, that's what I thought it was. Um, and do we have other Mattel pops? Are there properties that Mattel mostly usually makes?
Trying to think. It may not be.
Yeah. So that's what's interesting too, because obviously it's a movie, so like whoever the production company or whatever probably has kind of some rights into this, I guess, into how they're making pop. So it's interesting to see. Um, but I wonder if this opens up like getting a retro toys type of vibe with some of these, versus just like the movie version.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't think like because I'm just like looking up their biggest brands: Barbie, Hot Wheels, Fisher Price, Thomas and Friends. Like just right off the bat,
I
right
was
there.
gonna say Hot Wheels initially, but I was like, I definitely don't make that.
Like Hot Wheels would be a cool Funko Pop. So would even like whether I know they're for kids, but Thomas and Friends. Like I'd probably buy a few of those. Like I loved that when I was a kid. Even some of like they've made a lot of retro toys. Some of the most
Hmm.
iconic retro toys are from Fisher Price. I mean, they still make toys that my parents had that I've gotten my kids.
Yeah.
You could find a way to make a fun Funko Pop out of those. It makes me feel like maybe that is a brand that they can't touch. And maybe the Barbie movie is a little different because they're making them of like people,
I mean, it
like
would be
the
if you
actors and
think about
actresses.
it. Think about even just saying it out. It'd be weird to see a Barbie doll Funko Pop.
Yeah,
Like, like it
it would
just
be.
doesn't sound right, right? Like it's like you're taking a toy. I mean, now, granted, you said they do have a retro toys line, but I mean, some
Like
of
I
them
have a
they have
Mr.
GI
Potato
Joe.
Head,
Yeah,
like
so like they have
Funko. Yeah,
some that are like completely one toy made into another. So I guess I could see how they could do it, but that's a massive line. Barbie
yeah,
or anything in the major Mattel, like Hot Wheels, for instance, stuff like that. So maybe it's a little way around it, and that's why, but it has to be the movie accurate because it's the actors and they're
yeah.
just playing a character. So maybe that's how they kind of get around it. But it's interesting that we're gonna get that.
Let us know too if
Um,
there are any Mattel brand Funko Pops, but
yeah, I
I
really
don't think
don't
there
think
are.
so. Even in those retro toys ones, I don't think any of them are.
No,
Yeah.
they're not because the retro toys line actually may have all really been Hasbro.
Hasbro,
Even
yeah.
with the NFT line when they did it, the royalty was a Freddie Funko wearing a Hasbro shirt. So
Yeah.
they all were Hasbro toys. But yeah, like I said, let us know. Another pretty sweet rumor. I mean, we knew this was coming, but for the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem movie, we're getting it looks like this line is going to be massive. It's going to cross the both the sodas and the pops. And I'm wondering if this will be uh like common soda line like we've been getting with the Marvel movies.
Yeah. I didn't think about that.
I feel like it's gonna be.
With the movies and stuff, it seems like that's kind of what their way of getting out more
Yeah, at
um
once.
pieces and stuff. So I mean, it'd be cool. I'm starting to kind of like be like okay with because that's like kind of that those sodas are basically their way of being that general large
Yeah,
toy
it doesn't
company like that they
bother me.
kind of were kind of going into. But it's good that they have both because they still kind of keep the collectible aspect and then the just major toy company side. Um, I do like that find out of you been seeing this. Like, I don't know about Targets, but I know Walmarts have been popping up with like having them in individual cases now, so people aren't opening
Yep,
them anymore. Which that's, I mean, I don't mind. That looks tacky, looks bad, but if that's the only way they could
if
do
you
it, I
can do
get
it.
it. Because having people just rip through them was just like terrible. But I guess that's the way around that. But it's cool that you can always kind of be able to get one. They'll just restock it if anything.
Yeah,
If you really want one of those. And they're for big major movies so far. So it'd be interesting if they do this. So far they've only been Marvel, right?
that's Shazam,
Oh yeah. Okay. So it's just been just more of the just whatever the big major movies that have
but
come out
it's
with
mostly been Marvel.
superhero wise and stuff.
Yeah,
Um, but speaking of, we can get into
I want to
or
talk
did you have
about
something else?
one last thing before we get into Mando
Yeah.
because it's interesting. Did you see that the next, and it may have already came out, the Loungefly Pop bag bundle is now coming with a hard case. It's going with the
I
hard
was seeing
stack.
something. Yeah, yeah. I was seeing something. The pop you're saying?
The pop, because I mean, you've seen this. Like basically everyone that's dropped, the pops come destroyed
Oh yeah, yeah.
because they throw them all in one box. It's a recipe for disaster. And Funko basically has just been like, yeah, sorry, we can give you like a, you know how they do with the NFT, like a $30 credit.
Oh yeah. Well, it's not really. It's like their version.
Well, yeah,
They're
their
kind of
version,
like hard sack. Yeah.
but still.
cheaper.
It's a step in the right direction, and it just
The
made me feel
Jasmine
like,
from Aladdin.
is that going to start happening to NFTs? People have been saying, I mean, if you're going to do it for
I
this
mean, they should
bundle,
have, but I don't even know.
it just, I had to mention it because I just find it interesting. This is definitely because of the reaction from the consumer. I think
Because
they've had
when
way too many problems.
so when you get, because I've never purchased one, I don't know if you have, but
I haven't, but I've
so
seen the
so is it
pictures.
literally the bag and the pop is inside the bag stuffed in there with like stuffing essentially, or are they
No,
shipped separately?
they legitimately throw it in one
Well, not
huge
separately,
box
but
with
like
no protection with the Loungefly bag, and they throw the Funko Pop within that
so
same
the pop's not
box.
even in one of their little sorters or anything.
It's in nothing.
That just seems
I don't
stupid.
really know anyone who's gotten one that I have seen. It comes like not messed up,
The
totally
pop.
destroyed.
That's so weird. You would
To the
think they would
point
at
where
least put it in
like
a sorter or
it's
something,
not even the
bubble wrap.
box that gets destroyed. Like some people's Funko Pops have been damaged.
Jeez.
Um, and like these aren't cheap, they're $100+
No, yeah, yeah. But yeah,
So
I mean that would be a good thing. I mean, I think they just do that with a few things, and obviously NFTs are just one of the many that I
yeah.
feel like they literally have done it since day one on every artist series style pop, and it was I don't know if that was like the thing they were trying to do, like this was the artist series, so it's cool, comes in this little thing, but it was like to us like no, that was just like a protective, even though they were pretty cheap and a lot of times those crack and they're like but it keeps the box enough of good shape that like if you had to take it out of that crappy one and put it
Whatever.
in a better one or just hold it with that one, you were okay. At least it was protecting it even in the shipping process, if anything.
Yeah.
Because even though I feel like it's a mixture of Funko's fault with some of these things when they get shipped out and they get destroyed, and some is UPS or FedEx or whoever may be shipping it and they're processing. At least this Funko doing as much as they can to protect on their end. So just in case UPS is a little
Yeah.
mishandling of things or whatever, it will help by doing
Agreed.
that rather than just like them being like, okay, this is definitely if it gets at all pushed or crushed or anything, it's not going to last. And it's like they're not trying to. So maybe with that they'll do it, but it is interesting. So I guess we'll see. And is it changing the price or it's still
I think the price
because they're
did well.
including that?
I think the price went up a little bit. So I
And you're
guess you're
basically
paying
just
for it.
buying it separately for them to put it in it.
Yeah.
But
So
that is interesting. Maybe they'll ship out the bag, the pop, and the case, like just in a box. So
yeah,
like you're getting it. It's not they didn't say they're putting it inside.
that's true. It could still come
You're just getting
damaged.
one to use your damaged box inside of it afterwards.
All right. If anyone has gotten one of these, let us know how it comes in. I'm sure we'll see
Yes.
pictures, but
There's
I'm
like a Jasmine
curious.
one, I think, is the one
Yeah,
that they
it's
were like
Jasmine,
announcing. So, but yeah, let us know. That'd be interesting.
but that's it.
All right. So enough of that news. Let's talk about some Mandalorian.
Yeah.
We'll again, if you haven't watched it yet, catch up spoilers because we obviously will probably go a little bit more into it. Not to go crazy and hardcore, just kind of give you our
Yeah.
thoughts and like what we think or what we think going forward or whatever, because some people do want to hear some of this kind of content, and we also like talking about this stuff anyways, and kind of what it leads to other topics of collecting anyways, because it's obviously Star Wars and stuff related, which we know, we are fans of. But yeah, initial thoughts. So obviously the series came out. What was it, 8 episodes?
Eight
7 or
episodes.
something,
Every
right?
season's been eight
See,
episodes.
okay. It seems shorter for some
It's
reason. I
too
don't know if
short.
it's because like it just should be more, or if this season just wasn't doing it as much. Where I don't know, I just feel like it was kind of
Yeah.
shorter in a weird way. Um,
I
but
mean,
what
I
are your
agree
initial
with you.
thoughts?
Like I did feel like it felt shorter. The episodes are way too short in general.
I was gonna say the episode lengths themselves were
Yeah.
short too.
There's this season. I mean, all in all, this is my least favorite season out of the three.
Yeah.
Um, it may even be if I'm including Book of Boba Fett as like part of this. I think I'm tied with this season with the Book of Boba Fett, but there's just way too many storylines for certain characters that just got fleshed out in like one episode. I also think one of my biggest issues, as I've kind of hinted at this before, if anyone knows me, like I read into all movie like news production wise, like there's a lot of issues with this. Pedro Pascal, I think, being one of them. And it's really interesting. Something had leaked recently that I guess he got in an argument with Lucasfilm for the first season because they were only going to pay him a voice actor salary, which is ultimately why his face was shown. Because one, he knew it was going to be a big show and he wanted to be seen, but then the moment he shown his face, he was no longer considered a voice actor, which is just super interesting to like think about that. He
Like in
automatically had it.
his clause, like he had that so that he could get
I
paid.
think that's just like an Actors Guild type thing.
Okay.
He's no longer considered, he's on screen, so he is now not just doing voiceover work. Um, because if anyone does obviously watch the show, his face has been seen in the first two seasons, very minimally, but it has been seen, and that was definitely written because of him.
Was it in both seasons?
It's in both
For some reason,
seasons.
everyone's seen it like one or two episodes, I feel like, but I guess maybe it was
Yeah.
a
In the first season
couple
was when
moments.
he was like dying and like he took his, well, you thought he was dying and like IG-11 like helped save him and he took his
Yeah,
face
yeah.
off. So only the robot saw it. And then in the second season, you actually saw his face when there was like that heist episode with Bill Burr. And obviously when he showed Grogu his face at the end.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But this season we got nothing. And the reason we got nothing was because Pedro Pascal was never on set of that show ever. Um, it's honestly the first season where the guys who are in the suit got like credit, like
Oh yeah.
more
Now
noticeably earlier on in the credits they mention them.
now in the first two seasons, let's say, right? Just kind of go off of that.
Yeah,
Was he also not in the suit besides those
he's
scenes?
in it very minimally.
But he was enough to be like, okay, he was in at least a
I
couple,
mean,
like
honestly,
versus where he really was a full blown voice actor essentially for the
I
seasons.
think he was barely in the suit too. I think it was when he knew
Yeah,
that day on set his face was going to be seen.
it's interesting. See, I have like kind of back and forth on this. Like, I get the whole like, come on, bro, like whatever, but like, it is a little weird to have like your name attached to just. I guess if you're animated, obviously your name's attached to a voice, but like to the character, like I still think like when I see him walking and moving, I'm picturing him,
Yeah, I
but it's
mean,
obviously because that's who
agreed.
we went along with. But and there's obviously stunt doubles and things that happens even in live action with people in their
Yep.
faces. So that it's not always the actor, but I guess because knowing that more, and we talk about this offline all the time, like knowing the issues that he had and like how this literally was more just voice acting essentially. Even while watching, I'm listening to him knowing 100% he's not talking through the mask. Like you can tell, I feel
Yeah.
like, versus in the first couple seasons, he almost sounded like it was him with maybe some kind of a distortion or something, to his voice. Um, Whereas now I'm like, yeah, these are like fed into the
I think he cared
post production,
less.
maybe in the tone, yeah, like maybe it was a lot of other stuff happening. Um, I mean, the thing is, he kind of has a voice that, because even in like The Last of Us, not to go off to a different show, but
Yeah.
like even when you see him talking, his voice almost kind of like almost feels like his voice. Maybe he voiced over that too, because he also has like a weird voice, I guess, that doesn't really
He
animate as much.
does. But that was excuse me, that was my biggest like issue because I believe between that caused issues on the production. I also think I've read, like, for all you who don't know Kathleen Kennedy, she runs Lucasfilm. I'm not a fan of her. I think she needs to go. She's ruined certain parts of Star Wars because rumor on the street is John Favreau finally had issues with her. And you should never have done that because he's essentially their golden boy with Dave Filoni, to the point where I know a lot of people were like, you know what, this is ridiculous. I had to watch Book of Boba Fett to understand this new season because the finale of season 2, Grogu left with Luke Skywalker. All that stuff is, done. It's all resolved through Book of Boba Fett. And I guess John Favreau did not want that to happen. I think if he had it his way, Grogu would not have come back until probably like the series finale.
Yeah.
But of course, they're like, no, Grogu is gonna be in the show because he sells toys, he sells merchandise, he's the most popular thing. I mean, my wife, who likes Star Wars strictly because of me, this is the one show she actually like sits down and enjoys watching, him being one of the reasons. And I know she's not a minority in that. So even like scenes like this year, I know we're just kind of going not just all over the place. When he was in the IG like droid, it was cool, but that was to make a Funko Pop. That was to make a toy. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's why that happened. And I kind of just didn't like that. I think it kind of messed with the story a little bit, where the first two seasons, like he and Dave Filoni got to do like basically whatever they wanted. This
Yeah.
felt a little more like they're setting up. There's probably going to be stuff that happened in this that pays off in the movie that they just announced that Dave Filoni is going to do that connects like all these shows in Ahsoka together. And I mean, let's be real, this was basically Bo-Katan show this year, which I don't
Yeah.
care because I personally love her. Um, Weirdly enough, the way this season ended, you could have a spin-off of the Mandalorian, whether you want that show now to just be about the Mandalorians who now are on Mandalore with Bo-Katan,
Yeah.
and then Din Djarin and I guess now Din Grogu can have their own show, which I
Like
personally
become The
think,
Last of Us.
yeah, I think it's just funny. So I've gone back and forth. Like I thought personally he was going to die in this season from all the drama that I've heard.
Yeah.
And I've still, from a lot of reliable like people that I listen to, you know, their channels who have sources, said they filmed two endings, one where he did die and the one we got. And I think this one was perfectly disguised as this legitimately could be a series finale if they want it to be. It had a nice little bow tied up
Mm-hmm.
from the first season of him finding this person that people forget he was supposed to kill,
Mm-hmm.
to now being his adopted son. Um, they can also just say he's off somewhere else until they fix something with Pedro. Um, and that could be in a few years. So
Yeah.
like I think that's why they kind of did that. Sorry, I'm rambling because this stuff gets me excited. And then I also think there was supposed to be a show, which I don't know if you're aware of this, called Rangers of the New Republic,
Yeah.
which was supposed to star Gina Carano. I
Yes. I
think the
had heard
next
that.
season of Mando is essentially going to be that show, like reworked.
Because
And
they also kind of mentioned that in the
they like
season a
name
little bit,
dropped it.
kind of, yeah.
Yeah, the dude, I can't think of his Star Wars name, but I'm a huge fan of his. He's from a show called Kim's Convenience, which I don't know if anyone's seen that. I recommend that on Netflix. It's a sitcom about like an Asian convenience store, but he's like a huge Star Wars fan. They kind of elevated him as like one of the um X-Wing pilots this season who was working for the New Republic. It ended with
Yeah.
him like at the bar with Mando.
Hmm.
I feel like that show that's going to be like the new Mandalorian show, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah. So I was gonna say, so overall, I kind of like the season. I almost feel like you can say, like, if someone that doesn't know much about who's creating this, who's writing this, who's directing whatever, like watched all these seasons, they would think that the third one was done by somebody completely different.
Agreed.
Like I feel like it was that different, right? Like you could just tell. And then when you're like really into it, and you know, then when like you really pick up on a lot of stuff. But even just as a general person, I feel like you could tell. So that was like one thing. It was a little bit all over the place. I feel like what their story kind of was started, and even like you said, even from the beginning, the first season, they were able to tie it well. So like that writing was done really well. I think it was just kind of some mushy stuff in the
Yep.
middle that kind of didn't really need to be, or it could have changed. And it could have been based off of a lot of different issues, like you said, that we're hearing or some are confirmed or whatever it may be. But yeah, it did turn into more of a Bo-Katan show. I wasn't a big fan of her in the beginning. I didn't really like her character when we first saw, and then like I started to kind of warm up to it. I guess I just kind of wasn't expecting it to turn into, even though like obviously when you first saw Mandalorian and it came out like he's Din Djarin, he's not Mandalorian. Mandalorians are all of them. So like
Yeah.
I think that's what clouded a lot of people's things because they see him as the
Correct.
Mandalorian, right? he's the most badass, he's whatever. And like even in this show, you see him bowing down to other people,
People.
basically, like saying,
Yeah.
I'm not. So it was kind of like a weird thing, but I understood it. I understand who she is and her impact and whatever. Um, the Darth Maul stuff, not Darth Maul, um,
Moff Gideon.
Moff Gideon stuff. Sorry, I'm thinking of the show, the other stuff. The Moff Gideon stuff. I thought he looked cool. It was cool, like how they present him. I just think his time and how it like was his story arc, and then how it kind of went, was a little rushed. I feel like, in my opinion, which is sad because he's a
Just
pretty sweet character.
completely agree. Wasted.
Yeah,
Because I don't know if
it
you
was like
noticed.
wasted exactly in
I don't know
that
if you
sense.
noticed this, but that's another thing. He had a mustache in the first two seasons. He did not have a mustache this season.
Really?
But the poster art that they released, so like Disney, the Disney Plus social accounts for all their shows will like release every like Monday, let's just say, new character art for like all
Uh-huh.
their shows. And he had a mustache on it. And everyone all over the internet was like, what is going on? And it's kind of like he's like, yeah, you barely this is Giancarlo kind of saying, like, I'm barely in this season. I'm not growing that mustache back, kind of thing. And now it's funny, some people are like, oh no, we didn't have a mustache because he was the clone version of him.
Oh,
That could be a nice way of you feeling good about yourself. And maybe Lucasfilm will hear that and they'll like write that into a story, because there's no way they don't take fan theories, because they definitely do. But
yeah.
that just also showed like the season just was like, what? Like
Yeah,
this, a
it's
little thing like
weird.
that.
It's just weird. There was multiple things I think that kind of like it was already starting with like behind, because the first two were so big and how they ended and whatever. Like to live up to that was already
It's
gonna
too
kind of
hard.
be hard.
Yeah.
So like that expectation kind of affected it, but then also like all this other stuff that we're talking about. But then the last thing I did want to mention, just kind of like in an overall aspect, is that I know you love them, and I did for a little bit, but I'm kind of over Grogu. And I understand because the way it ended, I was okay with how, like you said, he was supposed to kill him. It was this whole thing, and now he's basically his son, essentially. He takes him in as an adopted son. But I guess like it's still hilarious to just see this tiny little thing hopping around. Like granted, we saw this back in the days with Yoda, right?
Yep.
Like he was smaller than, but he wasn't that small. He was
No.
smaller than everyone, but he was enough to like you can see him wielding a lightsaber and fighting, right? Like that was
Yep.
awesome. This is like a literally an infant, essentially, is his size. And he's just hopping around, hopping around. And then like the whole thing that like he's basically gonna become a Mandalorian. And that's kind of like where they're like what he's trying to
Yeah.
like I just don't see it. So like to me, it just was like kind of laughable. And that was the only thing that I was kind of like, so like I don't know if like you said the he had a different storyline that was gonna be from the original
Yep.
what John was gonna do and had to change that, or if this is kind of where he wanted it to end anyways. But I don't know if just getting there was what changed.
No,
But I don't
I
know.
think if he had it his way, the next time we saw Grogu, he would have been older. And
Okay,
you would
then that would have made more
everything that
sense.
you're complaining about, you probably wouldn't be.
Yeah. And I think
Um,
that's why.
it's weird at this point that he doesn't talk. He
Yes.
hasn't really changed.
And they keep saying he's young, but I'm assuming years have gone by.
Years have gone by. Um, It's just, I still do love the character. I do want him to be the badass, like Mandalorian Jedi, which, like, I personally think that new movie that they announced with like Rey and the sequel trilogy characters, he could end up being in it as like an older Jedi. Like, I just think like Lucasfilm does not wanna, this is their golden character. And they have, I mean, look, yourself included, like they've milked it too far, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um,
That's the only thing that like,
yeah,
and then granted, like I said, the way it ended, amazing. That scene was amazing. Like
yeah,
to him sitting there, and then you see him playing with like the little frog
yeah, it
thing.
was awesome.
Like that was awesome. That was a perfect way to end it. It was so like poetic. It was, and like you said, that could literally be the last time we see Mandalorian.
Yeah.
that version that him then, right? Like it could be, and it'd be okay. I feel like that's satisfying way. Like, granted, people would probably want to get back to just having him be like the lead type of thing, where he kind of took a more of a back
Yep.
seat towards this season. But if it wasn't, I think it still could be satisfying enough the way that ended off. So it is interesting to see what's going to go forward. But I did want to ask you this just because you're more of like a diehard in the timelines and everything that's going on. But this is obviously filling gaps, right? Like a
Yes.
lot of these shows, a lot of these side stories, these side smaller movies, they've all filled gaps on the major nine like major movies, right?
Yep.
And in between the first three, second three, and then like that kind of thing. So this is going towards more of the tail end or whatever. Um, but this, like any of these characters, right? Because I haven't watched any of the last three, the newest
Yep.
and latest of movies size, and have for the most part watched majority of the stuff, minus maybe some shows here and there. Are any of these characters like are they mentioned? Do they
So
exist?
they definitely are the sequel trilogy. They have tried, they definitely have tasked John with this, which I'm sure he's not the happiest about. He put stuff in the Mandalorian that kind of is alluding to what's going to happen in the sequels.
Okay.
So like none of
Which
these
kind of makes sense in a way to tie stuff, of
it
course.
does, because
But none of these existing ones
none of
are.
these existing characters are in the sequels. The only, like, the little droid builders, like those little tiny like creatures who supposedly dropped the first F-bomb in Star Wars. They're like, peace out,
Yeah,
motherfucker.
yeah, yeah.
That
I was gonna say I've seen them before. I feel like
they're
besides the
from Rise of Skywalker. That race
okay,
was like first made in that movie. So that was a nice little Easter egg. The Praetorian guards, those red
yes,
guards, a version of them does exist in like Return of the Jedi, but like though that version is kind of leading up to what's in the Last Jedi, which is the second of the sequel trilogy.
hmm
And cloning plays a huge part, which, like, I know you said you're probably gonna watch those movies, so I don't really want to, because I know you
yeah,
haven't
yeah, yeah.
seen them. So like the cloning aspect of the Mandalorian is like a big thing leading up into what happens in the sequel trilogy.
Okay,
So to answer
so
your
them kind
question,
of getting into that and that being towards
yeah.
the end or whatever,
So
obviously
it's been
was
more like the reverse, where they're trying to make, I think they try to make the sequels better by making Mandalorian have things make more sense.
okay. Because when those sequel trilogy was out, was it just like a lot of new storyline that kind of was like not tied back to the original three trilogy, essentially?
I mean, it's a mixture of both. Like they tried to, because like,
Which
Harrison
obviously
Ford's
like
in
the
The Force
world.
Awakens,
Yeah,
like,
okay.
yeah, but most of the main characters like Rey, Kylo Ren, Finn, Poe, like they all were new characters.
Okay. What
Um,
about Boba?
he's not in the sequel trilogy because
Okay, so he doesn't.
he was technically dead.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so they
Interesting.
don't, yeah. Which I'm assuming more of the stuff is gonna fill, because like Ahsoka, essentially the series, like I don't know if you've ever heard of like the Heir to the Empire, which is the big like Timothy Zahn trilogy of books that came out like when there were no new Star Wars movies being made. Like a lot of older Star Wars
Mhm.
fans, like that's their sequel trilogy. They're definitely taking stuff from that, and like that's where Thrawn comes from. He comes
Okay.
from
And
those books.
then he was made into
Yeah, which
animated.
Dave Filoni, yes, put in the Rebel show, which Ahsoka is essentially a sequel to Rebels.
Okay. So I wonder if like just an interesting thing, like I wonder if it's easier for like them to fill in gaps, just having freedom to just basically have a world
Yeah,
or having context and matching things. Like I wonder which one of those is actually easier. It's interesting.
I'm sure they prefer to do whatever they want. Having the
Yeah, just in
Easter
that
eggs is
world.
fun, but um, even though I do think Mandalorian is coming back, like I know there's going to be a new season,
Like the
unless
show or
some,
season.
yeah,
Yeah.
unless some crazy thing happens. Because like I said, I've heard John was so annoyed that like he kind of was just like pumping out scripts because he's contractually obligated to do so. Like I
Hmm.
hope that isn't true or they work something out. Um, because I do think obviously they set that show up to go back to the roots of what everyone loved was just badass like bounty hunting. But now he's gonna
Yeah.
do it for good. So it's
Yeah.
like such a nice mixture.
Yeah, to give a positive, just to kind of go off of that, like the battles were great. I mean, especially towards the last, I mean, the middle part of the season was kind of like a little dragging and you had a couple little random moments here and there. But the second to last episode, I thought was like amazing. It was really done really well. And then the last one was, I think the second last one was probably a little bit better overall.
I agree.
But the last one had a couple battles, like especially that air battle that they had, which was sick. Like that
Yes.
was cool to see stuff like that where you're like, all right, this is like badass Star Wars stuff. And like granted, there's obviously storyline and drama, even from the OG trilogy that it happens. You always think of like the battles when it comes to like Star Wars and like, like all these different characters and stuff. So like I feel like they on this season they kind of went a little more kind of like same thing with Boba. They
Yeah.
went like too much on the story and the whatever that like it just wasn't as entertaining, I guess as you could say. But it had its moments. But
Which I've also heard that was kind of made because Kathleen Kennedy forced John Favreau to make that as well
yeah, I mean it could
because
make sense.
of the issues they were
The
having with
change.
Pedro. Um, because it's you forget like it's was like over 2 years since the season finale of Mandalorian season two. And
Wow,
there was
yeah.
no way they were going that long. Yeah. I think that's another issue with it too. It just was that was like Disney Plus's massive hit. It was just gone for too long. And then the new season wasn't. I mean, at the end of the day, I still enjoyed it. I'm like a Star Wars sweaty, so like I didn't hate it. It just wasn't what I wanted it to be. But they needed it to be just as good as the first two seasons for it to continue to be like the critically like this was the
Yeah.
one thing that Lucasfilm has made since like Disney bought them that like everyone loved.
Yeah.
Now it's not.
But it's interesting. It's gonna put like when you look at it as a whole, when everyone's like, oh, how's the Mandalorian? It like in the past, before the season, you'd be like, oh, it's so sick, this is bad, blah, blah, blah. You would
Yeah,
just go like raving. Now I feel like if someone says like has never seen it, it's like, oh, should I watch Mandalorian? You'd be like, yeah, it's so cool. But that's it. Like I feel like that's always gonna kind of be something now. It's gonna
agreed.
which
Agreed.
which sucks, but like overall, you should definitely watch it, and it's great if you never have. But it does suck that that's like
The
something
thing
that
I
exists, and
think they
it's
have
hard
going,
for a show to be
yeah.
that good every single time. I mean,
The
not
thing,
many shows have done that.
no. The thing I think they have going for them though is Ahsoka is going to be that good. Like I think Ahsoka is going to make everyone forget about the Mandalorian, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it, but then again, also that's the first season. Like they're putting everything in there. Let's
Correct.
see if that could stay, long term. But it'll be a good, something, and that's pretty soon. So that'll be something that'll kind of get you to forget about, what just happened. And
Yes.
I think the spell of the last few shows as a whole kind of like has been downward, where it's like we haven't gotten that. So it's like going to be even more to get something like that. Because I mean,
Agreed.
like, I mean, honestly, I didn't even finish Andor.
It's so
Like,
funny. So like some people, that is probably the most divisive Star Wars show that's been made. And since like The Last Jedi, which a lot of people are mixed on, like some people think Andor is like the greatest Star Wars thing ever made. I thought
yeah,
it was I was like, I watched it all.
yeah.
It's pretty
I just
boring.
couldn't. It didn't get me to like come back and get to this, and I just really did it. And then like even with Boba, like it was an amazing. I can say like I enjoyed it, but it was slow, obviously, and like obviously I had the Mando episodes that say which were
Which
badass,
yeah,
but that was it. And then we get Andor, and it's like okay. And I like I said, I didn't even get. And then Mando coming back, I was like, all right, cool. I'll get back into this thing. And I still watch every single one, and we talked about it as they were happening, and like there was moments here and there, but it just didn't give me that same. And like I feel like Ahsoka's gonna. I mean, should be doing that based off of like how it looks, and it looks like it's gonna be pretty sick. And obviously, Filoni being like
Yeah.
attached to it completely. Now, granted, there still is boss lady above them, so like who knows? But
Yeah.
we'll see.
We will say.
But yeah, it's, I mean, a little bit of a different take on it. We didn't like just go hard. Actually, we probably didn't even spoil too much because we didn't go
No.
super hardcore on like the actual show. But like just to kind of give you our thoughts and just overall, and obviously definitely let us know what you guys think and if you guys are fans. And we would love to do more stuff like this. Anyways, we always talk about it, but timing has always been the weird thing,
Yeah.
especially with these shows coming out like during the middle of the week. But for other things or movies or stuff, maybe we'll do some more, even if it's just like a short clip or something. We'll think about it. But that'll be it for the episode. Hopefully we get some NFT news, man. I'm still shocked that hasn't happened.
I
So we'll see
agree.
what happens for the rest of this week. Um, but yeah, that'll wrap it up. Charlie will let you guys know as always where to follow us and do all that kind of stuff and like the video and everything. We appreciate you guys if you're listening on podcasts and definitely if you're watching here on YouTube as well.
Yeah. So, like Mick said, if you're listening on the podcast, first and foremost, thank you so much for the support. But please make sure you're following us so you know when new episodes drop. And if you are listening on Spotify, if you could please interact with the questions and polls we put up. And if you wouldn't mind leaving us a review on any of those platforms, we'd really appreciate it. And then obviously on our YouTube channel, we appreciate all the support over there too. And if you haven't already, if you could just give us a subscribe, that would be super helpful. And if you could like this video, comment, and then hit the notification bell so you know when new videos are coming out. Because like we said, we always post extra content, not just the podcast, on our YouTube channel. And then also we're obviously on Instagram. So if you follow us at Collector Chatter, and then if you're watching on YouTube, you always see our names below us, but it's for Migs at pop_Migs, and then for me at collector_Charlie. And with that being said, thank you so much for listening, and collecting is the way. Later, everyone.
Bye.